All right. Good morning, morning. Hope everybody's doing well. Good morning, Tanya. How are you? Can you hear me okay? Good. I see some guys in Columbus. What's up? Hi, Alethea. How are you? Coming in from North Carolina?
Doing great. Yes. How are you?
I'm great. Is your team joining us today as well, or are you jumping on?
Yes, they're here in my office. They can hear you.
That's awesome. Well, hey, we appreciate you guys jumping on this morning. I don't know what's going on with my audio, so I'm glad my AirPods work, but the music wasn't being able to play. We'll add it later when we upload things. So happy Friday, everybody. So for anyone that's new on the call today, I see a few of you guys down in Columbus. Obviously, we have people on from North Carolina, obviously our office here in Michigan. I need you guys to do one thing for me. You know, it's Friday morning. This is KLear Channel. I'm going to upload this to YouTube. So Keith, I see you ready to roll. You're already chittery chattery down in Columbus. You got to look around. So where are your friends down there? Tell them to pull out their cell phones and or their notepads, but their cell phones first. And Nikolai, I see you there as well. And I want you to turn around, Nikolai, and find Scott in the room from DirecTV. And make sure he pulls out his cell phone, and anyone else in the room that hasn't pulled out their cell phone before, and go to YouTube. I see you, Alethea. Thank you so much. And type in KLear, KLear Channel. And so Alethea, if you can look around your office and see who's pulling out their cell phones, and please subscribe. We're this close to getting to 1,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. You know, we started this almost 2 years ago. We just celebrated 100 uploads to the channel, which is pretty awesome. And you know, the whole goal of this channel is to help change the world one leader at a time. Help give people hope and inspiration to improve their lives and to accomplish their goals. So today we don't have anybody on as far as a guest. I'm going to share some content with you guys. So, you know, some things for any guys who were on our call yesterday for the partners and the owners in the business. Some of this may, you know, briefly will be a little bit of a repeat, but I want to tell you a little bit about trust. So the first topic today is trust. In leadership and in coaching people, and helping and having the ability to have influence, in my opinion, one of the most incredible things you can have is influence on someone else. And so I take that very, very seriously. And I'll tell you, there's a little story this week that happened in my family and among my boys. So Brady's 9 years old. He plays on a local club soccer team. And little by little over the last few weeks, my wife has been kind of, you know, making jokes around how I've made my way on the team from sitting with the parents, and then making my way to the corner flag, and then making my way to behind the goal and like helping the defenders, and then making my way around to the bench. And recently in a game, I was asked to warm up the team. And now at practices, when I'm at practice, the coach is getting me involved. And some of you guys know I played soccer in college, so the coach is aware of my background. And I'll tell you, it was interesting at the practice, or at the warm up the other day. The kids are 9, the coach isn't there, and frankly, the kids weren't listening. The kids weren't paying attention to me. They weren't actually responding to any of my coaching at all, any of my direction, any of my, you know, kind of way to get them kind of organized and get them started and prepared for the game. It actually really bothered me. And then I listened to a call this week, you know, that we had with, you know, Dave Anderson, who's a leadership guru that, you know, helps coach NBA players, a lot of professional athletes, and professionally, he worked with the Lakers before. And Dave, you know, my buddy Adam was telling me, if Dave, in this video or audio that you listen to, and if anybody wants it, just text me, I'll send you the hour of content from an incredible leader. But he said, if you're not listening, if something in what Dave is saying doesn't hit home with you and doesn't, you know, hit you in the heart or get you to make changes, then you're not listening. And I think Adam put it as you're deaf, dumb, or dead. I didn't want to say that, but I just did. So I just said you're not listening. So I listened to this right before I go to soccer practice, and I'm on my way to practice, and I talked to my buddy Eric in our office about some things he learned in his trip recently. And I get to practice, and the first thing crosses my mind is, how can I get these 9-year-olds to actually follow my lead, and how can I help them? And so when I got there, the first thing they do every practice is they run 8 laps around the field. 8 laps as far as just getting their fitness up. So I looked at the kids as they're getting ready. Instead of standing there with the other coach, I said, all right, boys, let's go. And so I ran 8 laps around the field with the players. And I started like, hey, come on, keep up with me. Let's go. I thought you said you were fit. Let's go. And we ran around. And then when practice started, we started doing drills. And I got involved with the kids and started doing drills. And then as they, goofed off a little bit, they had to do some sprints. I did sprints with them. And it was interesting because towards the end of practice, coach says, hey, Coach Ken, kind of funny. But he says, hey, Coach Ken wants to address the team. And I said some things about how, some of them, were crying at the last game because they're really frustrated. They lost the finals, their last tournament, 5-2. They got smoked, to be honest. They weren't in the game at all. And I asked them if that made them feel good about their what they're doing, and if their effort in practice essentially was going to translate to them winning the next championship they get in, because there's some tournaments coming up in 2 weeks. And I thought it was very interesting because the kids were actually like zoned in when I was talking. They're actually paying attention when I was talking. And I've come to learn in leadership, and I think it applies to all of you guys. If you're ever interested in leading, coaching, and guiding others, there's something called a trust score. And the trust score in leadership has to match your effort. It has to match your effort. It doesn't match your results, because if you're young in leadership, you're not going to have a lot of results. You're not going to have a lot of, track record, to say the least. But what you could have is an amazing work ethic. What you could have is an amazing attitude, and be talking about the future and where you're going. In my eyes, if you have high performance or high effort, but you have low trust, you're not really going anywhere in a leadership role. Now, if you have medium effort or medium performance and medium trust, right? Because you take the time to listen, you take the time to spend time with people, then you're going to have some followers. You're going to have some people that are willing to follow your lead. Now, the magic happens, in my opinion, if you have a ton of effort, you have high performance, you spend a ton of time building relationships and putting deposits, we call positive deposits, in the emotional bank account, and you're serving, giving, helping. In my opinion, when those two match is when you get great leaders that want to follow you. And they want to follow you in doing whatever you're doing. And again, I know friends of mine that own companies, like they own a trash company. They literally talk trash. It's really smelly trash. But this trash business has some incredible people in the business. It's like a $42 million company my buddy owns. Like, it's trash. But why do people hey, you know what, mom and dad, you know what I went to college for? I'm going to talk some trash. I'm going to be in the trash business, right? Like, think about that. It's not what you do for a living and what you do in your career. It's who you do it with and why you do it that really makes a big difference. So remember this. I know I've heard it in my office recently from some of our leaders and from our managers. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, and this is with multipliers, people that are amazing people that make a difference in the world, that make an impact in their families, that really change people's lives, go with a lot of trust and a lot of effort. So you got to put in the work. You got to go hard. And I'll tell you, when I was new in business, when I was a young 22-year-old fresh out of college, I remember thinking to myself, I didn't go to college. I mean, to do the business sales, or to stand in a retail store, or whatever the position you're in. I don't think many people go to college to, to do those things. I know I didn't. But the reason why the business that I'm in still, from when I started from college till now, when a lot of, statistics say people move job to job to job, I never did that. I've stuck with one job. I've stuck with one opportunity for 20 years. And the reason why I stayed early in my career is because I saw Michael, the guy who hired me. I saw him putting a lot of effort into his small young business. And he painted this picture of opportunity. He painted this picture of, hey, the idea that, hey, companies are going to need this service. And as this idea grows over the years, we are going to need leadership. We are going to need partners. We are going to need managers. We're going to need people to run markets. And so I remember his first, week or two, or my first week or two in his company. He grabbed appetizers with me my first, second week in the business. I remember 2-3 months into the business, he and I went to Penn State for a weekend to go to a concert. Like, we did more than just work. And I just knew, my heart, my gut, I knew that as long as I kept working hard, I continued to gain his trust. I continued to put in the effort. And I would be a humble hard worker, and I would be humble, ask questions, and I would pay attention, and I would make changes because I knew he was a business person, a young entrepreneur. I knew that I would advance. And in my opinion, there's a triple threat. If you want to get ahead and build trust among your leadership and also with your teams, it's your work ethic, it's being humble, being a humble student of whatever game you're in, and number 3, it's having a ton of fun. Work ethic, humble, and fun. And that triple threat in my eyes is going to help you really grow a strong team. So that's point number 1. Point number 2 is the best captains, the best pilots, the best leaders, the best coaches have seen the most storms, have seen the most tough times. The harder something gets, the more it pushes you. Trust me when I tell you, the older you get, when you grow in your career, the more you're going to appreciate the hard, the more you're going to appreciate the challenge. Because nothing, if there's a quote around challenge and things being hard. If it doesn't change you if it doesn't challenge you. I don't know if you guys have heard that one before. It won't change you if it doesn't challenge you. And so appreciate the challenge. And the way it works is in experience, right? Everyone wants experience. Everyone wants the hockey stick of an opportunity, the hockey stick financially, where you're here and you go like this, and you start doing things you've always dreamed of. You start traveling, or you start, I don't know, driving the car, having the home, or having the relationships, or whatever it is that you dream about. But the way it works is there's an action, there's some failure, there's some learning, and you do that times 10, 20, 30, 40, and then you gain experience. Because every action, every time you do something, and every time you fail, if you're smart and you have awareness and you think about things, and again, you take time daily. This is an attribute of successful people. They take 5 minutes a day and just think about, hey, what worked? What went well? What am I going to adjust for tomorrow? Hey, when I wake up tomorrow, what are my 2 or 3 things I'm going to accomplish today, right? And you'll learn by failing. And the only time, in my opinion, excuse me, the only time, in my opinion, someone truly fails is if they stop, is if they give up on whatever it is they're moving towards. It's like, my wife and I were at the gym this morning, and she's doing her exercises, and she's a runner, and she's telling me she has an IT band issue and her legs hurting her. And and I just, again, it's credible how important it is to have 2 people in a relationship that really push each other. But there's I see her push herself so hard sometimes she actually hurts herself. And then she goes back and recovers and we have all these like Theraguns and whatever, and she rebuilds herself. And but the only way she doesn't get ahead, and the only way she doesn't continue to hit some of her fitness goals is if she stops. And it's the same thing in business. And I remember in relationships, long before I met my wife, there's, I have to be honest, there was a bird or two that broke my heart, right? There was some relationships that didn't go my way. Sometimes I wanted to cut her, but I didn't, right? Sometimes you probably felt that way about me, right? We broke up, right? But the way you have an amazing relationship in your life, and I hope everyone finds that at some point, is you go through relationships that don't work, right? Ones that break your heart, ones that, and I remember my brother telling me about things, and I have an older brother, so you guys know this, 5 years older. I've always looked up to him a ton in his athletic career and his relationships, and he's always, accomplished a lot of things. He keeps me honest, and that's why when I go to the World Cup every 4 years, he's among the travel crews because we're super tight. And I can't wait for, we're talking this past weekend about Qatar and what we're going to do because we're all going to Qatar in a couple months for the World Cup. And but I remember my brother telling me about relations, telling me about how they go sometimes, and I didn't really feel any pain. I heard him, and I had to go through it. I had to have the relationships and feel a heartbreak. And so my point today is with failure, with actions, with learning, is you have to fall in love with the rebound. I call it the Dennis Rodman. You got to fall in love with the Dennis Rodman. I met him one time in Miami, by the way. He was absolutely drunk at 8 a.m. in a Miami hotel. It was funny. It was Turnberry Resort in Miami Beach. Kind of funny. He hit on Sarah, for the record. I was like, really, dude? Like, come on. But the Dennis Rodman, he was known for his rebounds. He was known in the NBA as the best rebounder in the NBA for a period of time, the Chicago Bulls. And you got to get excited about that rebound. You got to get excited about rebuilding yourself. You got to get excited about what's to come. In my opinion, that's where the value is. That's where the growth occurs. And you only will learn if you choose to learn. The crazy thing, the statistics, just so you guys know, the statistics say most people don't learn. Most people get in the relationships that don't work, and they then get out of it and they get into a similar relationship. It's crazy. And then people, again, at work, in sales, and what we do in our business, they make a mistake and then they do it again and again and again. And the old saying is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So do yourself a favor and learn from those failures. Learn from those failures. And the last thing I want to say is how it's interesting about life and people and leadership when it comes to people and environment. So there's some moves we made as a business on programs, campaigns, opportunities. They're really, really exciting, frankly. And I think of my buddy Joe down in Columbus, and so there's these atmospheres, and there's these in situations, and Joe's a perfect example of the positive side of this, the right person in the right environment, and I'll get there. But what I've noticed in business is, if you pick the wrong person and you have an incredible environment, or you have an incredible opportunity, the incredible culture, that person and that opportunity is going to go nowhere. It could be the perfect scenario, the perfect situation, the perfect the all of it, information, data, system, etc. But the person is wrong, it goes nowhere. If you pick the wrong person and have the wrong environment, of course that goes nowhere. That's an obvious one, right? Wrong and wrong, it doesn't go anywhere. If you pick the right person and you have the right individual, and then you have a tough environment, maybe even a negative environment. I've interviewed people like this, that they work for companies for years and get good results for years, but the culture, the environment, the leadership, it's not a good situation. And that person actually ends up changing some of the environment, making it better, because they're like, no, I don't like this, and I want to impact it. I want to make it better. And so, and it's interesting how that works. And then the perfect world, which sometimes it's hard to find, is when you have the right person and you have the right environment or the right opportunity. This is where winning happens beyond measure. This is where people accomplish so much in their life that they look back a year, 3 years, 5 years later, and friends and family are like, man, I can't believe you've done so much so quickly. We have actually people in our organization that have done things. We had Brittany on recently, right? We're perfect example of somebody who year and a half, 2 years in her career, saved hundreds of thousands of dollars corporately and personally, paid off all of her debts. Joe did this when he was young in our business, paid off everything that he needed to pay off and has saved hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he's, a few years into running an office. And it's interesting because when that happens, that's where when clients come to visit us, they're like, man, the people you have in your business are incredible. And they meet some of these top performers, and they meet some of these young up and comers. And they often say to me behind the scenes, I bet you so-and-so, I see them in 6 months or a year and they're running a market. They can see it because they deal with people too in their organizations. So what's the point with this and the people and the environment? So there's a meeting I've ran in the past, and maybe someone, you guys have heard of it. It's, I was making some pasta the other night. To make pasta, you all know we got to boil the water, right? The water gets boiled. If you drop an egg into boiling water, you ever done this before, you'll know the egg gets hard, right? The egg gets hard. And that's often what happens in people's careers. They shut off the world. They just kind of go in this shell, and they, don't want the coaching. They don't want it. They're going to do it their way or the highway, right? Which, that's a strategy, I guess you could say, right? And the egg just gets hard. In another scenario, same boiling water, you drop carrots in the boiling water. And the carrots, as I'm sure you may or may not know, they get mushy. They get soft. And, my eyes, this is a person in business that makes all the excuses in the world on why, an opportunity doesn't work for them. And then there's the third scenario where you get coffee beans, and you drop coffee beans in the same environment, right? The same boiling water that you had the egg, that you had the carrots in. And the coffee beans change the water into coffee, right? So these are the people, these are the multipliers, these are the right people in the right environment that change and impact and improve and drive. And I'll tell you, if you're young in your career with an organization or any organization, in your first 5 years, if you can do that, you are going to create not only a name for yourself, but you're going to create value for the organization you work with, and you're going to see your income go like a hockey stick and just take off. And I'll tell you, I get excited when I meet people like that. I get excited when people, come in and there's high maintenance, low maintenance, or no maintenance. And I get excited when I get feedback about people that just have a ton of relationship building opportunity. They work hard, they put the effort, and they're working on themselves. They have discipline, they make great decisions. And those types of people in our business, in the business that I'm in, I mean, they just take off. They take off quickly. And again, Joe's an example of that. Alethea is an example of that. There's so many people in our organization that are great examples of that. So So anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys. Happy Friday. Again, think about trust. Think about how that impacts your style, impacts your team. Think about how you, how you look at failure, how you overcome it. And then last but not least, think about how you make an impact in the environment. Do you improve it? Do you add on to it, or are you taken away from it? And all those things can help you have a great week. So happy Friday. Thanks for joining the KLear Channel. We'll see you guys next time, and have a great weekend.